It's Dandadan, the show where we talk about Dandadan, a manga about the Dum-Dums. So we need to talk about this chapter of Dandadan. I mean, you won't believe it, but this arc has officially stumped me with this chapter. Because that last page is by far one of the most ominous hints at what could possibly be something even more evil than I anticipated. But thankfully, we did get a lot of new information out of this chapter that shed some light on where this new arc is headed, and I think all of us, even I, probably at this point can't predict it. This is going to be one crazy arc, I tell you what. But before we jump in, a word from my partner over at GamerSubs. GamerSubs is back from TwitchCon, and using my creator code, you can get 10% off all official anime flavors from Darling in the Franxx, JoJo's, and Jujutsu Kaisen, along with a waifu cup of your choice. Every purchase with my code gives me a commission to help sustain my life. Don't know why I said it that dramatically, but please, sustain me. 214 picks up from 213 with a tender moment between Okarun and Momo, who is still grappling with her memory loss. Momo asks Okarun what his real name is, and we have this really fun back and forth moment between the two, with Momo practically demanding Okarun reveal his secret name. As a reminder, Kintakakura is his name, just in case anyone recently, has gone through what Momo has. I mean, you never know. But the immediate standout in this entire interaction is just how much they gel together without one half remembering the other half. I think this partly has to do with Momo being just a little bit more assertive and socially extroverted person than Okarun is, but it does just go to show how Tatsu truly hit gold when he created Okarun and Momo. It feels like this bond can never be broken, and that it is inevitable no matter what happens. Which is interesting to me because most other romances in manga are never subtle, and it feels like they were made for that sole reason. Looking at you, Marin! But there is something about Dandadan, though, that makes these two feel natural, despite the way I do like Marin, just saying. But anyways, that makes these two feel natural despite being just as planned out as any other story. So in other words, if this were in the real world, I think this is a totally believable relationship. I guess that is just another example, though, of how Tatsu can take these generic setups and tropes and make them seem fresh and inclusive to the readers, which is really, really cool. I wouldn't be surprised if you see other people kind of start to take note after Tatsu and sort of rip him off a little bit. I mean, if I were making a manga, I would take what he's doing here as a blueprint, just saying. Momo demands, and Okarun tries to explain. She will not like his name because she never did when she did have her memory. This is crazy and is a massive green flag if you can believe it. Momo never told Okarun the truth about how she feels about his real name. Okarun does not have the same knowledge that we have as the reader, but thanks to a very, very, very sparsely used but highly memorable gag, we know that whatever that name is uttered, Momo freaks out and dies of simpage. But Momo does end up giving up for now and asks him why the nickname, to which he tells Momo it's because of his love for the occult. And so hearing that, Momo takes that bit of information in while he feels like, even though she is next to him, there is this riff. This is called proxemics, or personal space. This is here to establish that there is no connection between the two on a personal level. It's devastating for Okarun because of how close they were, and I'm sure this is something everyone watching has or will experience, because, it's personal space. But it's just a normal part of life, and yeah, it's sometimes sad, sometimes not so sad, but it is what it is. However, in this instance for Okarun and Momo, it isn't exactly a real example of it. It's more of a hurdle that they all must navigate the correct way. At least that's what I'm sensing. That's one part of the green flag, because as previous chapters have already established, there is a kind of muscle memory that Momo is having through the way that she reacts to all of the Dum-Dums at times, and during this arc. This is here to show that the lid to the true Momo isn't shut, but it's kind of like cracked open. Maybe a better analogy, at least the one that came to in my head, was like a can of paint. Like if you're done painting a wall, you put the lid back on and you bash it to hell back to the lid closed. Stupid fucking can shut! It may be an airtight seal, but the edges come up due to the bashing, and thus you could very easily open it with your fingers. It is as simple as that. Momo is a pre-opened can of paint without the factory seal. So it is not Momover. At this moment, Okarun doesn't feel like that is possible because he sees that there is no way through to her to get her to accept it. So the logical part of his brain gets it, while the emotional side is sort of left battered, like that goddamn lid of paint. This is a nice detail because as humans, we sometimes think too logically and interrupt that balance between emotion and logic. It's a fine line. And if you think too emotionally, you get emotional. If you think too logically, you become a robot, a machine, a dominator. This is one of Okarun's personality traits that can help him, which is probably something he developed from being bullied. But in this case, when it comes to something more emotional, the balance is kind of out of whack. So why? Well, because Momo is Okarun's emotional balance. She's there to center the scales of Okarun's troubled mind and neglected heart. In fact, this means both have a wall that they cannot get past. Momo is completely unaware. Okarun can't do it without him. Communication is broken. Proxemics. Effectively, the bridge is burned even when it stands totally untouched, or maybe it's battered, like the Eventually, Momo asks for evidence of aliens, as I would. And at first, the obvious one to bring up is the alien they hang out with, Bamora, the one with the impy head. At first, it doesn't make sense why Momo would see the antennas on her impy head and not go, huh, that's an alien. I guess that's something we'll probably get to later in the video, won't we? But she tries to show her the kaiju suit, but it is under repairs. So Okarun tries to get her to walk with him to Mr. Penny's place, but Momo, not knowing who this person is at all and not knowing who Okarun is, thinks that it is kind of too sudden to ask him to walk with her. This is yet another example that their communication is snapped. Proxemics, my friends. She then accuses Okarun of using her amnesia to seduce her, which leads to a kind of like a cute and hella amazing meme template moment, but I think there will be people who will not like this moment because it is like Momo accusing Okarun, her close friend and basically boyfriend, of being a dirty boy. But remember, keep in mind, she doesn't remember him. This is here to illustrate nothing more than the method of communication they once established is not there anymore. That's it. The dynamic is different and thus requires a different approach. The chapter is here to establish that. Sakata is the one that we should probably be thinking is a little problematic at this point, if we haven't already, because he's not any better and tries to get Momo to be his girlfriend, which everyone immediately just quarantines this bitch. Especially Ira Shiratori, who channels her best Homer Simpson, "Why you little doubt." Also, can I say, I just love the "say the line, Bart." I love that meme, dude. I also love how Ira does a turnaround and is like, "Momo is an idiot. She'll believe you, Sakata." While Momo is like, cracks knuckles. "Listen here, you little shit." Classic Momo Ira moment, of course. So everything has failed to convince Momo of anything, which is further bleeding her trust with the group, and even further bad news, since Seiko is in the hospital and requires more surgeries, she will be gone for 2 to 3 months. Basically, Goku. So the vibe with this, and let me be clear, I don't know if this is the goal, but this is kind of the vibe that I'm getting, is that Seiko probably won't be in this arc at all, if any. Or at least she won't be there to help them. So basically, just like Seiko always is. Like, basically just Seiko. Which makes sense, as this arc seems to be more about what we'll talk about later, the bakery and the plotline around that. So Ira just turns into her silky form, and Momo can't see it, since her ability to sense the supernatural happens only when Okarun tries to save Momo from being abducted by aliens. So at this point, she's been reset like a N64. She has zero need to believe aliens exists, and thus has no reason to have her powers awakened, because that display from Okarun back in Chapter 1 is what makes her wake up. I guess you could say she's no longer woke. Okay, listen, I had to make the joke, okay? I have the autism. I just had to get it out. It was funny. Basically, nothing they can do can convince Momo. They are stuck back when Seiko was trying to convince Momo that all of these other things did exist. Wait a second, I just realized something. You know how we just discussed how Okarun is maybe too logical? Well, if you think about it, Momo is protecting her emotions too. It's like the reverse of Okarun, which is like kind of a really nice and neat detail. Then the big one, the biggin, the thickums. Okay, maybe I should have said thickums. Ira says Takakura, and hearing this, Momo says that her trust is broken from here. Since he said she would hate it, and in reality it is just some generic name, and now doubts that they were ever really even friends. And that is because, technically, in Momo's perspective, Okarun was just straight up lying to Momo for seemingly no reason. The only two people to get what just happened as Sakata and Aira are in their own world is Okarun and Gigi, as they watch her walk away. So, we gotta talk about it. This is big, this is massive, and this is very important. I did some basic, very, very basic research, and Takakura is the 23rd, big number, most common surname in the world, and 1 in 5.6k people have that name in Japan. That is a lot, and indeed, that is quite generic. She's right. But Kin Takakura, the man who is said to have been the most manly man in all of Japan at one period of time, beloved and adored by basically everyone in Japan, young and old to this day, that's not generic. Okarun hasn't said his full name to her yet. That is the one thing missing, and likely will be the last thing that he says to her in the arc. And once that does happen, it'll all come flooding back. So while she walks away, once again, we get this poignant inner monologue from Momo, where something just doesn't feel right to her. Like she is the one being isolated, not the dum-de-dums. Her instinct is telling her that something is off. I loved this moment. This was fantastic and shows that even Momo's inner self, her instinct, is trying to tell her to wake up and protect her. She's walking away from the arms of her found family and directly into the arms of Count Saint Germain. So, before we discuss the first panel and what it means, this chapter was yet another example of how Tatsu is clearly setting up the dominoes to fall in the way that he wants. The clear end goal vibe, so keep in mind that's just the vibe, is that he wants to recreate the first arc yet again, but with the current characters so that the romance goes full circle and has a kind of rewarding conclusion. I mean, what is better than Momo asking Okarun his name again, and he says it, and it just, like in the first chapter, it all goes full circle, and the explosion happens again, but this time ends with a kiss, and a hug, and everyone crying. Character and reader alike, mind you. I love this, and I think that this arc will have a climax like no other, and from there, we will get the rest of the series with Momo and Okarun actually having a relationship where they learn how to exist together as one. That's very, very rare in manga, especially shonen manga. And Tatsu has that opportunity within his grasp. Could he have one of the rare shonen manga to actually have a top-notch romance arc? So far, so good. Let's all collectively knock on wood. Future editing C-Tactics here. One of my Discord community members, Benny Takakura, said the following: Okarun needs to let Aira know he's in love with Momo, like how we did with Vamola. I thought that was a pretty cool thing that I didn't even notice. Yeah, maybe one of the first initial steps as this arc gets going is for Okarun to be like, hey guys, I'm having troubles. I can't communicate with Momo right now. Please help me. And then they go like, why? Why, Ken? Why Okarun? Why Takakura? Why can you not talk to Momo? You guys were all tight. And that's where Okarun basically confesses his love for Momo to his friends, and from there they're able to better understand, which then would sort of reject Aira and force Gigi to come to his conclusions about his feelings for Momo, which means, guys, that's big, because that has to happen in this arc, maybe. If we're going by what this theory states, that is a big part of getting Okarun his confidence back to go and approach Momo. And he's never communicated once to anyone that he loves Momo, not even Gigi. So we'll see. We'll see where it goes. Once again, thank you to Benny Takakura in my Discord. If you want to join, you can definitely join. I definitely purposely put that there to get you to join because I want you to join. Please join. As for that final panel, that's, oh God. This is exactly what happened to Koki Yuki Shiro minus the blackmail. It almost seems religious with how creepy Jeremy was at the end of this panel, looking like he's about to tell Momo that she'll go to hell if she dares to experience anything pleasurable in life. Jeremy is basically appealing to Momo's wounded heart by telling her that he will listen to his worries. Because this is how it works. When you are at your weakest and are most emotionally desperate or otherwise, you are more likely to accept help from someone who is unscrupulous and evil than someone you actually should accept it from. This is just how many corrupt organizations work too. They appeal to the emotional aspect and to someone's weaknesses. You need saving? I can save you. All that anger you feel is not your anger. Nobody will listen to you but me. I am the only one who can understand you. Everything that these people appeal to, it's all a lie, a trap, a cult of personality, and you are the rat. If you haven't, you probably should read about these figures online. There is an official term for them. They're called strongmen, or at least that's the tactics that a lot of these people like to use, and there are quite a bit of them on the internet and in the real world who use these tactics. So give that a good Google search because it directly correlates to what Jeremy is probably about to do to Momo. Anyways, continuing on, people like Jeremy will present themselves as people with scruples. They'll dress a little odd, but present themselves as nice. They'll wear glasses to look smart and intelligent. They'll stand stoically and tower over you to subconsciously intimidate you. They'll do whatever it takes when the opportunity is in front of them to get you to do what they want. In this instance, Momo is the opportunity they are about to pounce on, and I guarantee you, like the Captain Obvious, I am, that this is not going to turn out well for Momo or for anyone. Only Jeremy will gain. So where does this go, ultimately? Well, vibes here, vibe check, whatever. I think that Momo will be offered a job at the bakery and slowly grow to have a bond with the Kurbati and the Aninra, who both have bakeries of their own. I'm sure of it. I think that these bonds will be built upon actual mistrust, but by the end slowly grow into a mix of mistrust and genuine friendship. And that bond will likely be tragically severed by Jeremy, who may end up using strongman tactics to get them to comply by making them fear for their lives, preying upon their weaknesses like he is about to do to Momo, and seize full control. I think by the end of this overall saga, a big part of it will probably be the Kurbati and Aninra's relationship with Momo to show that stark contrast of leading by fear over leading by trust. In other words, bad guys win the battle, but they are not going to win the war. At least yet. Everyone, thank you so much for watching. Ooh. Please join my Discord. It's pretty well moderated, friendly, needs new members all of the time. We're starving. If you made it this far in the video, drop some orange hearts in the comments to let me know you're a real one. Check out this video for more Dandadan content. Make it a great day or not, the choice is yours.